So today we're going to be concepting the game obstacles for the Cluck and Lucky mobile game. We're going to kind of walk you through the process of what goes into ideating and then executing those obstacles. So some of the considerations that go into creating the obstacles, the main one is how are they going to serve your storytelling? Because everything that you decide to put in your game, it needs to further that character story. Another thing you got to consider when creating the obstacles is how they're going to interact with the gameplay. Is the user going to get the gist of what they can expect when interacting with that item? And then lastly, once you actually start getting into the weeds of designing, you got to take into consideration what kind of shape language you're using, what kind of color language you're using, because that is going to inform not only the mood of the game, but also it has a lot to do with how legible they're going to be inside that mobile game. So the first step that I take in creating these assets, I usually start with a round of speed sketching. And I'll start doing between 10 and 30-second sketches just to generate a whole bunch of ideas. And once all of those ideas are out, what I do is I pick a couple of the ones that make the most sense and then start rendering them a little bit farther to hand off to the 3D department. So the sketching process is very fun because this is where you get to dream up anything that you want. So that you can take care of a lot of the world building and the storytelling without having to worry so much about the resources that's going to take. So these are going to be our consumables for the Cluck and Lucky game. So some of the things that you think about are what kind of food does Rumbo sell? He sells sticky Korean chicken. So a large part of that brand is that sauce. So the collectibles are going to be little sauce pipettes that are going to come in the sandwiches. And because he's a chicken, we want to give him an extra life. So what makes sense for that to be? We decided a little golden egg because he's going to crash and then he's going to crack out of the egg again. Another part of his cuisine is that it's kind of spicy. So his invulnerability is going to be a ball of fire that he's going to catch in the game, and then it's going to ram him through a bunch of the obstacles. And the last consumable is going to be our golden loyalty coin. He grabs that and then it gives him a whole bunch of points. It's a golden coin. The user's very familiar with what a golden coin is supposed to give you. Easy to understand. All of these have very simple, legible shapes. They're all very soft because Rambo is like a little plushy character, but they're also kind of fiery because he's a mix of sweet and sour. The next consideration is what is going to be in his way. So all of those are consumables, all of those are things that he wants to catch. Now we gotta make it more difficult for him to catch them. So who are his enemies? And we have established his storyline to be kind of like mischievous. And so he hits these little chickens. So they're cute, but we don't want to catch him. So they're going to be in his way. If he bumps into them and doesn't hit him, they hit him. So, and there's going to be two different levels of chickens. The chicken without the helmet and the chicken with the helmet. But because they are chickens, it's actually a colander. Over here, you also see me kind of working through how they're going to behave. So sometimes when you hit them, they're going to hit up against the screen, which kind of makes like a playful, interesting visual effect. And it kind of makes them adorable, even though they're your enemies. We still want that cutesy look for all of the elements. And then finally, we think about the obstacles that are going to be more part of the environment. So these are going to be coming at you, but also be parked in the street. So you have to avoid them. And we wanted them to be our little pixie pods. So we created some opportunities for cross-marketing. The majority of them will be the Cluck and Lucky truck, but we'll sprinkle here and there some of our other brands into the game. So over here, it was like a chicken coop idea, since they're chicken sandwiches. And then over here, it was a more traditional food truck look. But then we decided to go with our containers, since they are such a pivotal part of our brand. We decided to put our containers on the back of a Vespa because he's a little chicken, so he can't really drive a full car. And then a little bit of his backstory is that he came from a chicken farm into the big city. So we're gonna see a couple like red farm trucks with the iconic wood paneling where they put up all the chicken crates. What you do think about a lot are the shapes that the assets make gonna be easily legible when you're playing in a small screen and like going fast. You don't want one of the consumables to be your little sauce pipette, but then an obstacle to be that same exact sauce pipette, but it happens to be red instead of dark brown, because then that's just confusing and it's frustrating for the user. You want this to be a game that you can just pick up, and if it's the 10th time that you pick it up or the very first time that you pick it up, you want the user to be able to look at it and say, oh, I know what I gotta do. So once the concepting is finished and we've arrived at exactly what we want them to look like and what those functions are going to be, the next stage for these assets is to hand them off to Marlon, and what he'll do is create the geometry. Then we coalesce and say, hey, we want to execute it this way. These are the things that we're going to have to change so that the poly count doesn't kill the game. So for example, a good example of that is the food trucks. So when I made the food truck, I originally had the container part of it opened, and you could see like a window, you could see the spot where the menu goes, you could see the back door where the people would come in. But through a little bit of conversation with Marlon, we realized that's probably going to be a very resource-intensive asset that you're just going to run past. It's not like you're going inside. So how we decided to fix that is by just closing that window and making it glass. And now it can just be a flat surface, and you can do a lot of the detail in as a texture instead of actual geometry. And in this particular project, I'm actually going to help him do all of the texturing. So what he's going to do is create the actual geometry and hand me the blank, I guess you could call it clay. And then I'm going to go in with the colors. Once Marlon hands it off to me again, you can come back and watch me do some more of the textures and see how that next part of the process works.